It's called The Girl with No Vagina.
Right. That's a great title.
Thank you.
Well, they had. I mean, if they can make a man turn into a penis turn into a vagina and look real, I watched one of those videos of how
They
they
can
do
definitely.
it.
I've watched
And
those
It's come a long way.
It looks like
Yeah.
I look at like when it's all done and the pussy they make and I was like,
'cause
wow,
they
they
split it
they put like a banana,
Yeah, they do. They know what they do.
and then they make the lips and everything.
Yeah.
And it
I've
wasn't
seen
always
one.
as pretty.
Yeah.
Now
right?
it's like really like top notch.
Yeah, one of my
you probably
girl-
couldn't even tell like.
Yeah, one of my girlfriends, she had
Well,
one
the
of the,
hands give it away.
yeah, she had one of the
Always.
first,
Well, they could shave that. I don't
she had
know.
one of the first surgeries where she had a vagina made for her back in the 70s, and she showed it to me, and it's like, it looks better than,
Did you
a
look like I'd sniff it?
Right.
Does it smell like girl?
Does it
No.
smell like the 70s?
Does it smell like the 70s?
I didn't get that close, I was just
Wait,
Wow.
no, so she's from the 70s. It's got to be. She's got to have the whole Pam Grier afro down there, right?
Well, you know what?
No, she's-
Speaking of that, my friend came out. Like my friend was staying with me, and she went to shower, and she's kind of
Yeah.
like Burning Man girl, whatever. And she came out to get, and she was naked, and her fucking bush was so big.
Yeah, Dolomite style.
And
Wow.
it was so big that I was like, it looks like the back of a. Is there car keys in there? Like, is there like a gummy bear? It's like the back of a car seat.
And I like that.
I was like, she's like, stop! I was like, you need to
No,
shave
no.
your fucking vagina.
No,
not in my house though. Go in the street.
No,
Go
because they
back
won't
yard.
block up your
Backyard.
drain. My girlfriend, I
Yes.
had my plumber
No,
come because
yeah.
she did that at my house.
Exactly. If it's that, I mean, it was like you couldn't see lip. You couldn't see a line. It was
I
just the
can't.
bush.
No, I like it.
My pussy, like I
I
don't even
like
get that.
that.
I can't. Even a guy, I'm like, go away.
I can't even get that hairy though.
No,
I'm
no.
not really a hairy person. Like, oh.
I wouldn't even allow that to happen.
I'm so inexperienced. I need the target, but that's just me. But
But you, if you shave it off, where would the crabs live?
there you go. That's
Where would
Where
they
would
go? Where would
The ladybugs.
They would.
the
Yeah.
ladybug. Yes. Yes. Where do the butterflies go?
I mean,
How the lamb stops screaming, Harry.
Yes.
that's like the human equivalent of tearing down the rainforest.
Right. So how did
My pussy looks bigger.
now,
Yeah, right.
yeah. Well, from pussy hair to the Church of Satan. Now, how did you
Nice transition there.
How did you know? I mean, please.
That was a really weak segue.
Hey, I'm full of them. But how did you or your mother or your Uncle Satan
Yeah.
not take over the Church of Satan? How did this
Timing and egos.
Yeah.
You know, when Satan was too young, I was the son of the most disenfranchised, sort of disassociated member of my family, Zena, who kind of like disavowed my family
Right.
back in the late 90s, and then not very long after that disavowed me too, which led to me reconnecting with my grandfather after having not talked to him or seen him for 5 or 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see this. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
your
we-
mother. I know your mother and he.
Yeah, well, she had threatened that she would disown me and never speak to me again if I spoke with him after the time that she severed ties with him. And so there was this period of like 5, 6 years where I didn't speak with Anton, mostly because I was in Europe and I didn't,
Right.
have enough money for an international phone call. But beyond that, when I came back for a couple of years there, I wasn't really avoiding talking to them. I mean, we were living in the same place. I was in the Bay Area, going to high school,
Right.
and then Zena. One thing led to another. Zena had told me on the phone that verbal. This is an early lesson in life. Verbal agreements mean nothing. She told me that when Anton died, that I would get her portion of whatever inheritance.
Right.
And then, of course, after he died, it was a matter of minutes before she was there, like everyone else, myself not included, vulturing through Anton's stuff.
And I would imagine there's probably been some times where you were mistaken for him.
Yeah,
When
and
you
even
sort of-
people in my family call me Anton too sometimes,
Right.
accidentally. And it frustrates my grandmother sometimes when, like, if she's like, she gets all fired up about stuff, and sometimes accidentally calls me Anton and then kind of goes, oh, I mean Stanton.
I read a story that, and this happened, I'm assuming in Hollywood, where somebody recognized you and threw a bag at you, like a garbage bag. There were body parts in there?
No, that's a mix of a couple different things that happen.
What's the weirdest
I don't know
thing
about. I mean, I've had stuff thrown at me before, plenty of times. I don't even.
Trust
know.
me, you should go to some of my gigs, but
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. But as far as
No, go ahead. What's the weirdest thing? I mean, what's the weirdest interaction you've had with somebody?
oh, but like on the as far as like crazy freaks and killers and stuff like that, I've had some pretty strange encounters with killers, and also weird sort of connections with Charlie Manson, and then other strange things happened. Like one time I was in jail, and I had a cellmate who was a murderer who had been Richard Ramirez's cell neighbor, I guess, however you'd call that, and he told me this whole story about the real story of how Richard Ramirez died, and that he was poisoned and killed by a jail guard, and I don't know about any of this being leaked anywhere, or if there's even any conspiracy type mention of it anywhere, but this guy knew his business, and he told me stories too. He had played chess with Charlie Manson.
Wow.
Yeah, I guess.
I wrote my senior thesis, college thesis about the Manson murders. I'm like so fascinated with all the like.
Do you know Tarantino's got a film coming out?
Oh, he's doing one too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's doing.
Yeah. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
seven.
But I always go to the Museum of Death. Like I was actually just there. I used to like go a lot, but.
Sharon and I brought a body into the Museum of Death, a dead body.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so tell us more.
Like they had because I was gonna write Richard Ramirez before he died, and like who's the guy that Oscar? What's the guy that works there? He goes, well, if you want to write him, you got to tie your feet together. Take your feet and tie your feet together. Take a picture, and then he'll write you back.
Yeah.
He'll write you back by the
Yeah.
writer. He loves that.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't do it though. But I was like, I should have.
See,
I
this
don't
is
know,
one.
Richard Ramirez pen pal. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted to write. I'm so fascinated with Charles Manson.
I can't
Yeah.
compete with these
Because
bad
he didn't
boys.
do it. I mean, well, but Charles Manson, he didn't. Well,
It's not easy
bad,
being
but-
bad.
Yeah. What's your insight into the Manson murders?
Well,
Because Manson and LaVey, did they correspond? Your
yeah, they
grandfather?
knew each other. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're both musicians.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say magician.
In a sense.
Both.
Yeah.
Musicians and magicians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you
yeah,
have any
I would-
insight on what's going on? And did you correspond with Charlie?
I corresponded with Charlie, but in a sort of unorthodox manner. You know, he and I would speak through people and through the media and stuff like that.
Right.
Communicate that way, and we were friends and fans of each other, kind of.
Mhm.
Especially near the end, Charlie was really like encouraging me, being someone whose voice was remembered, for having some insight to him and the crimes and all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Strange
is
stories.
this going to be in your book, or
I guess some of it, yeah.
is there a strange story you've got for as far as the Charles Manson correspondence?
Yeah. I said we wouldn't talk about this. I asked you to not bring it up.
Well, then
but no, it's okay.
we can go with some
Well,
other.
I was arrested once, and Charlie thought that I was arrested for having said something in his biography, and that he thought that I had somehow incriminated myself by something that I had said, which leads me to believe that maybe something that I said in his biography could be interpreted as incriminating.
So you did.
Jesse Ventura, the conspiracy guy,
the wrestler, yeah.
The body? The body?
Ventura.
Jesse the
body,
body?
was
Yeah.
talking.
Let me tell you, Mean Gene. I'm going to tell you about Charles Manson. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was into I guess the stuff that I was talking about, some of the conspiracy type theories that I was quoted in Charlie's book, the biography on Charlie called Charles Manson Now.
Okay.
And talked about it on Howard Stern.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I actually tweeted today that this is where we're talking about stuff. Well, why wouldn't we? But I was talking about if you're if someone that's like my ex was like such a sociopath, like psychopath. Well, psychopaths are born, sociopaths are made. And I was like, hey, and he's like, I did all this altruistic work, and I was like, hey, you know what? Ted Bundy saved a kid from drowning once. So
Yeah.
it's like doesn't mean you're not a monster when you kind of do good shit
Yeah,
sometimes.
Right.
So.
But and it doesn't mean
And
that.
karma isn't balanced by proclaiming your
Yeah.
justices or your.
Karma's a bitch if you are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
And just because you're a Satanist doesn't mean that you're necessarily a bad person or an evil person.
Not at
No,
all.
Same goes with a
in fact, Satanism really doesn't define me as far as and it's not.
Did it ever?
Yeah, it does in a lot of ways publicly.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as me personally, no matter how good or bad I am, if anything, I affect Satanism more than